Vimbiz, true integration of scheduling, rentals, and engineering. Thank you for joining us live at NAB in Las Vegas. Asset Management, presented by Tom Levesque and Alain Arsenault.
All right. Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Vimbiz exhibit here live in Las Vegas, Nevada. We're at the NAB show, third day of the NAB show. My name is Alain. So as you are well aware, there are many public broadcasters around the world, and I worked 30 years for one in Canada, the Canadian Broadcasting Corporation, or the CBC, in both French and English. There are three main facilities, one in Ottawa, Toronto, and Montreal, but there are also radio and broadcast facilities from coast to coast in different provinces and regional reporters' offices in each province and territory. So that makes a lot of little buildings all over the place. And this translates to hundreds of thousands of individual pieces of equipment, expensive equipment like cameras, lighting, microphones, computers, transmission equipment, and many, many more. So managers do their research online at trade shows like this one, and before requesting purchase of new gear. So once that piece of equipment is received, its life cycle needs to be tracked efficiently to get the most out of that piece of equipment. So manage assets and products in a clear and efficient manner. That's very important. And manage service requests easily and rapidly. So this following demonstration by my colleague will show how Vimbiz can help you do all this and more in our engineering solution demo. Take it away, Tom.
Okay, thank you, Alain. Welcome, and thank you for sticking around for this presentation. I appreciate that. Welcome. And welcome to people watching us online. I hope there's a whole bunch of you. My wife might be watching. That's pretty cool, too. We're streaming these videos. So today's demo is, as my colleague Alain said, about asset management, but a lot more than that. When you think of Vimbiz first, I'd like to point out that it's a suite of integrated solutions. We focus today on the engineering area of your operation, but engineering is everything related to your equipment assets. So the entire life cycle of your assets can be managed in Vimbiz, from its acquisition to the service and repair, up to the point that you're ready to send it to recycle and writing it off. So we'll cover that in detail in today's demo. Some of our customers also have an internal rentals operation where they manage the checkouts and check-ins of these assets. That's covered in a session later today, actually at 3 o'clock. And of course, we have a scheduling system in Vimbiz that's used by many of our customers, and we cover those in detail in morning sessions. But if you missed it, well, tune in on our YouTube channel and you can watch them there. Vimbiz is very often selected through public tenders. Is the case with these national networks that you see at the top of this PowerPoint slide. Many of these networks have selected Vimbiz for scheduling and time cards, but later on they decided to implement other areas of Vimbiz like asset management that we'll be talking about today. More recently, we've been selected to replace Schedule, so Vimbiz is a great alternative to Schedule for a scheduling system. Some of our customers did select Vimbiz for equipment logistics through public tenders as well. It's the case of Globo in Brazil and the RTBF in Belgium, and Dome Productions is our own country of Canada. And we have a very large deployment of Vimbiz in our own country at the CBC, where they manage well over 250,000 assets in Vimbiz. Without further ado, I'd like to jump right in the solution. Okay, the first thing I want to cover is the concept of a product in Vimbiz. So each of our customer will have their own catalog of products where, if I do a quick search here, you can see that a product can be categorized or inventoried as a barcoded asset in your database, or can be inventoried as a non-barcoded stockroom products, basically. You'll also have the ability of creating product types, which is a way to categorize your products and therefore very quickly finding them. Or you can also use a searching tool here at the top and do a search for, let's say, a TV studio camera. I have 21 of this product in my inventory, but the type of information I would keep at the product level is generic to all these 21 cameras that I have in my inventory. Okay, and if you don't think you have enough fields of information tracked by the database, well, you have an unlimited amount of specification fields that you can create either at the product level or the asset level. Information, having access to information, important URLs, important electronic files. The idea is to have a centralized database containing that information so everybody can find what they're looking for very quickly. Okay. I want to start at the very beginning of the asset lifecycle process that I referred to earlier, which would be the acquisition of new equipment, right? So I'm going to open up the manage product request form here. So think of all requests coming in from different users throughout your organization to acquire new equipment. That's what I'm presenting here. And we conveniently group everything together by suppliers, because normally if you process a product request like this, it would be on a per supplier basis, whether you do it at the end of the day when all the requests have come in, or maybe you do it once a week. The frequency of you processing these requests into purchase orders entirely up to you, obviously. So I'm going to go ahead and process this product request for 3 cameras. Now, me or the requester of this, the person that did all the research and suggested to go with that supplier, could also have attached a file explaining the process of, or the research that was performed, the price that was negotiated with the supplier. That's the concept of product request. Me here as a manager looking at that request, I can say, yes, that looks good, the research is right, but perhaps I don't have the authorization level within my organization to just say, go ahead and process this PO. So I'll release this for authorization, which would basically email or send an email notification to the person next in line, if you will. The person responsible to authorize this request in my demo environment is Paul. So I'm logging in as Paul. Paul would have received that email. Paul would see that on his desktop, his Vimbiz desktop, he has 2 requests waiting for authorization. And I'll open the one that I just processed. Paul would review the research, would review the data, and basically say, yep, let's go ahead with this. Now, typically, the purchasing module in Vimbiz for many of our customers is tied to a financial system, where the PO is actually managed and authorized and sent to the supplier from the purchasing system, from the finance system. But once that's done, we can receive a flag from that system, basically letting us know that at any time now, we are ready to receive these assets. Hey guys, how are you? Welcome. So I'm going to process one of the reception here and simulate that I'm receiving these assets. So these 3 cameras in my example, I'm going to convert them to assets. And I brought a little toy with me. I guess we'll be doing a little bit of scanning. There we go. So the reason I wanted to bring the scanner, and I have some fake barcodes here, I just wanted to simulate that so imagine you receive that equipment and you start putting some tags on them, your barcodes, and perhaps it already comes with a serial number that you can also scan. You'll see on the screen that conveniently, Vimbiz will go from one cell to the other. So very quickly, I can scan all these barcodes and create these 3 assets. I don't have to use my mouse nor my keyboard, and those 3 cameras have been created. Okay. Let's look at the Manage Assets form quickly to give you a little bit of a different perspective. This form actually looks very consistent with the product catalog that we saw earlier. This is something you'll see in Vimbiz, consistency across the different forms that we have, which greatly helps us reduce the time that it takes for a user to learn the software. So normally, when you know how to use one module in Vimbiz, the next module is that much easier to learn, right? Because a lot of things are similar. The searching panel, the hierarchy on the left. In this case, in the product catalog, it was a hierarchy of product types. Here it's a hierarchy of physical locations. So where is your equipment? You may have several regions. Each of your regions will have one or many physical buildings. A building can be broken down in physical area that just by reading the name of the area, you know where you're at within that building. Within an area, you'll have one or multiple rooms, and if you really want to go in detail as to where your assets are, you can do so by creating racks within your rooms and shelves within your racks. Each layer, shelf, rack, and room can be barcoded. Why? Well, for inventory control, this is extremely practical because VimBiz will know. And actually, I have here that my action is to update the inventory date and the physical location of my assets. So by scanning a barcode that represents a room, VimBiz will know that because a barcode is a unique identifier, it knows that it represents a room, and it will show me all the assets that I last inventoried in that room. And then as I scan my various different assets, so picture me walking around the room and scanning assets in there, VimBiz will, whoop, but I went too fast. Oh no, there it is. So VimBiz is basically moving these assets on the right side. I did go a bit too fast for VimBiz, but it's catching up with me now. And you'll see that 2 of those records were actually moved, which means that last time these two screens were inventoried in VimBiz, they were probably in a different room. So VimBiz moved them for me just by scanning them. Some of our customers actually use RFID technology for that. So imagine going in a room with a scanner that reads RFID tags, how fast you can update the inventory of that room. Okay. Michelle, what happened?
Hi, Tom. How you doing?
Well, I'm doing all right there, but you have this scary face and that I'm a bit worried.
Yeah, unfortunately, we were in the middle of production. We were shooting, and I tripped and fell, and unfortunately dropped the camera, so there's a bit of damage.
Oh, you did? Okay.
Yeah, but thankfully, through the app, I was able to actually log a service request, which I was then able to take a picture and add the damaged portion of the camera to the service request, and then I was also able to explain what happened and
Okay,
how it
so
got
you did
damaged, so that they were
something.
able to.
You did something like this, right? You scanned the camera. It allowed you to tie the service request to that camera, and you specify the type of problem you thought your accident caused, okay? And you provided more details.
Yep,
Okay, details were there. And you took a picture too.
I did.
All right. Well, it happens. Accident happens. At least what you did, and I really am happy that you did so, you logged it, you submitted a service request while you were on the field shooting, allowing your engineering team to get ready for when that camera comes back. This is an expensive piece of equipment. I don't have to remind you. Maximizing its uptime is of utmost importance. So thanks for doing that. Great initiative at creating that service request. So upon the creation of that service request, what happened, the engineering team working in that service center would have received an email notification, and I'm going to put that hat of a service coordinator that would basically log or monitor all the incoming service requests. And when I see one of the service requests, the one that Michelle just created, I can right-click on it and assign it to one of the technicians that is working in my center. Now, why do I go that way and not just drag over one of the names that I see on the right? Simply because by going through this form, I can actually see, because she scanned the camera. So the service request through the camera is linked to a product, which is a Panasonic HD. I don't know the model by heart there, but on that product, whenever a technician works on a service request linked to a product like that, we track hours. So we know how many service requests of that product each of the technicians have worked on and the hours that they worked on them. Some of our customers, like the U.S. military, they also want to know if the engineer is certified to work on that product. And if they're not, they won't even be allowed to assign them the service request, right? And here we see a perfect example of integration with other modules. Tom Levesque and Paul Manuel, in my example, their name is red because they're not available today. They're maybe sick or on vacation or what have you. So I'm going to assign this service request to Mitch. Mitch being assigned to work, Mitch would also receive an email notification or a mobile notification that he has a new service request that was assigned to him. So Mitch would work in a form like this one called My Service Requests. He could categorize his work by priority, by status. Maybe if you work with external customer, could categorize his work by customer. Here's the service request that Michelle just submitted that was assigned to Mitch. In this screen, Mitch would basically document his work using actions. And for each action, and they won't make sense there, I just went quickly, but for each action, the technician could specify the amount of hours that was spent on each of the action. Maybe to repair that camera, I had to order a part. But wait a minute. Would I order a part and pay for it if the camera is still under warranty? No, I wouldn't. And that's one of the example of VimBiz's power of informing the user in real time and avoiding to pay a very expensive part. But say I would have needed a part to fix that camera, I could have searched through the catalog of products that we saw earlier, or because we can create relationships between products, I could see the typical parts that are needed to repair that type of camera. And I would save a lot of time by not searching for a specific part, just by looking at that, right? So we track the cost of the parts, we track the number of hours spent on each action to determine the value of the service provided through the service request. And then of course here, me as an engineer, a technician, I could say, hey, I'm either a work in progress or you know what, I'm waiting for parts to arrive so I can fix that camera. So why is this important? Well, me changing the status of the service request is informing everybody in my department of where I am in working on that service request. And people can receive email notification, especially the requester that submitted the service request on that camera saying, hey, we haven't fixed it yet because we're waiting for parts. The last part of the demo I want to show you is the very end of the asset's life when you need to render assets inactive and you need to write them off basically for your financial system. And again, I'm going to use my scanner. I didn't fly from Canada to Las Vegas and put that in my luggage or nothing, so I need to use this. So what I'm going to do here, I'm going to create my pick list, or at least I'm going to add assets to my pick list. Imagine that I just collected a whole bunch of equipment that I know are ready for the recycle, and I just put them in my room and I'm just scanning them. That's essentially what I'm doing. I'm creating this pick list, which allows me to do what we call a bulk change. And bulk changing these assets allow me to set a written off date and set the status to something that will make those active assets inactive. And that basically is the process, the entire life cycle of the asset, from its acquisition to its reception, to its maintenance, repair, preventive maintenance too, because you want to maximize that uptime at all costs, to the time where it's no longer in use, covered in VimBiz. So, to summarize, you will know the total cost of ownership of your assets because you followed it from the very beginning. For customers that don't use the purchasing module to acquire new assets, it's okay because when you create the asset, you are able to put the cost of that asset, the purchasing cost. Know where your assets are at all time, physically, right? Quickly update the inventory date of your assets. I have customers that acquired VimBiz just because of that, because auditors demanded a list of inventoried asset on a yearly basis. So every year they had to do inventory control and provide those reports to those auditors. Quickly update, keep a service history, right? Those service requests. I scan the asset. I know the service history for that asset, but because it's linked to a product, I'm accumulating a very impressive knowledge base of services performed for the product line. And when I know that, what am I doing? I'm improving my purchasing decision because I know which product line performs better than the other. And that's it, folks. So thank you to everybody. Thank you for your attention. Thanks for sticking around. Thank you, people online, for watching us. We appreciate you, and we hope that you have a good rest of the day.